I think the arguments that are put forward by Matt in this video are valid probably for the most conservative evangelical Christian tradition, but it's not valid for Christianity overall. There are, first of all, is usually what's usually exhibited in atheist websites and in their webcasts is that they don't have a strong background in religious studies. That is, the history of Christianity, history of dogma. They sort of accept the most extreme version of Christianity in the United States as being the equivalent of the average Christian worldview, which is not and never has been. Biblical literalism is a relatively new idea. There have been positions before that the Bible of inerrancy, which means that it's inherently true, but not necessarily literally true. This would mean that whatever metaphorical or meaning is involved is accurate. Certainly not a nail in the coffin of Christianity in any way. I'm not a Christian. I do not believe in God, and haven't had any contact with any religious organizations of any kind in the Christian tradition in many years. But I do have many learned friends who are Christians, and it is important to note that something to the effect of 40 to 50 Nobel Prize winners have been either Christians or Jews, practicing Christians or Jews. The biggest problem I have with atheism is that it tends to fall into scientism, which is the notion that science can answer all of the questions of life, and there appears to be absolutely no indication that that's true in any substantial way. Science, there's also the myth of scientific progress, which is that science is constantly progressing. Well, it progresses in certain areas, and then it discovers that it was wrong, the paradigm was wrong, and then it goes back and it makes adjustments and goes on forward. The scientific endeavor is important. It's vital to us in many respects, but it is not always positive. It can bring weapons of mass destruction into being. It can poison the atmosphere. It can do any number of things, cause ecological disasters, because science is practiced by human beings, and human beings are not inerrant. That's for sure. So I don't put my faith completely in science, and I certainly don't put my faith completely in any religious credo, although I am a Zen Buddhist. Zen doesn't require an absolute acceptance of any particular doctrine. And that is an important factor for me. There are certain things that you need to, that if you don't believe in, you're basically just kidding yourself if you think you're practicing Buddhism. But I'm not going to go into that here. There always has been a mystical tradition of Christianity, Meister Eckhart, San Juan de la Cruz, and others. Just like there's been mystical traditions in Islam, among the Sufis, and also in the Kabbalistic traditions and Jewish thought. And many of these things see things as a metaphor, particularly the idea, the cross itself is kind of metaphorical in the sense that it represents a cross, the intersection of the infinite with the divine. And if you take some of Jesus' sayings, alleged sayings, I mean, we really don't have recordings of either Jesus or Newton or Buddha. We do have the writings in some cases in modern times. But certainly in ancient times, we don't have anything directly from them. So we're going to have to accept that, that they perhaps said these things. At any rate, the idea that the finite personality, the ego, as we call it now, post-Freud, must dissolve in order for the infinite mind or God or consciousness to take over is I'm perhaps stating it a bit simplistically, but it is a common theme in mystical traditions. I also have a question with people who call themselves rationalists, because we're all irrational and all rational at some point in our existence. I believe that most of us have a kind of web of beliefs that we hold that are all interconnected. And these things are held together not only by rational views, but by also our own experiences and the psychology of our upbringing and its effects on us. Studies have been shown that fairly clearly that our views on religion are shaped to a great extent by our relationship with our parents, both positively and negatively. That is, that there's a direct relationship between people who have poor relationships with their father, being apostates to that faith, and also having strong relationships with their mother. If she is religious, we tend to be religious as well. The point is that the claim of rationalists tends to overstate the case. So I think that it sometimes comes off as a little bit arrogant. You may think that your thoughts are logical, but if pressed, you will find that there are many aspects of your belief systems which are not based entirely on logic and reason, particularly amongst people who are advocates of scientism. Science has not come up with unified field theory. It's made very little progress at all in the hard problem of consciousness, as David Chalmers has called it. It's done very little with mental illness. Neuroscience has grossly overstated its understanding of the brain, in my opinion, and that shows itself by its lack of progress in treating mental illness or understanding certain disorders. You only need to look at a bottle of medication for depression, and it'll tell you that they don't really understand the dynamics of it. So anyway, this is Stephen Eckerd Musgrave. Just my opinion about these matters. Thank you for listening.